I didn't start losing sleep because of nightmares. I stopped sleeping because I was afraid of what would happen if I didn't. The first night it happened, I was parked on the shoulder of Route 17 outside a nowhere town in northern Montana, engine idling, snow drifting sideways like ash from a burned world. The dashboard clock glowed 2:11 a.m., a time I would later come to hate. I remember thinking it was strange how quiet everything felt, like the land itself was holding its breath. That's when my phone vibrated. No ringtone, no notification sound, just a soft, insistent tremor against the center console. I picked it up, expecting a spam alert or one of those emergency weather warnings that never actually warn you in time. The screen showed a name I hadn't seen in years. Callum R. Dorm Contacts. My heart kicked hard enough that I had to lean forward and brace myself against the steering wheel. That contact shouldn't have existed anymore. I deleted it twice. And even if I hadn't, Callum Reeve had been dead for over 6 years. I'm telling this now because pretending it didn't happen almost destroyed me. What you're about to hear isn't a ghost story. It isn't a possession story. It isn't about curses or rituals or anything you can blame on superstition. This is about memory, guilt, and what happens when the past decides it's done waiting. My name is Mason Alder, and this is the real reason I left academia, burned every bridge I had, and disappeared into contract work that keeps me moving from state to state. Because some places remember you, and some people don't stay buried. 6 years earlier, I was a graduate assistant at North Cascades State University in Washington. The campus sat between forested hills and a river that never stopped making noise, even in winter. It was the kind of place that looked peaceful enough to forgive its secrets. I was 27, broke, angry at my own stalled life, and desperate to prove I was smarter than everyone else in the room. Callum Reeve arrived mid-semester. He wasn't loud, wasn't awkward, didn't try to impress anyone. That should have been my first warning. He had a way of watching people, not staring, not judging, just observing, like he was cataloging things he might need later. He wore old jackets that smelled faintly of dust and rain, and he took notes in a handwriting so neat it looked rehearsed. We shared a research office in the humanities wing, a narrow room with one window that never opened all the way. 2 desks, 2 lamps, a space that felt smaller every day. At first, we barely spoke. Then, one night, during a late grading session, the power flickered. The lights went out for a full 5 seconds before the emergency system kicked in, bathing the room in red. Callum didn't react, didn't flinch, didn't swear, didn't even look up. He just said, "People show you who they really are when the lights go off." I laughed, nervous, dismissive. "Okay," I said. "That's not ominous at all." He smiled at that, but it didn't reach his eyes. From that night on, he started talking to me more, about philosophy, about moral responsibility, about whether silence could be considered a form of violence. I argued with him constantly. I liked arguing. It made me feel sharp. Looking back, I realize something terrifying. He wasn't debating me. He was testing me. The first thing that unsettled me wasn't what Callum said. It was what he remembered. I mentioned my father once, just once, in passing. A throwaway comment about how he used to fall asleep with the TV on. Weeks later, Callum referenced it casually, word for word, during an unrelated discussion. "You said the blue glow bothered you," he said, without looking up from his notes. "That's probably why you hate fluorescent lighting." I stared at him. "I don't remember telling you that." "You did," he replied. "Tuesday, around 9 p.m. You were angry." That was accurate.
too accurate. Then there were the questions. Not personal at first, hypotheticals. If you knew someone was going to hurt others, would you act? If the system failed, would you become the system? If someone trusted you completely, how much damage could you do before they noticed? I joked about it, deflected, told myself he was just another over-intellectualized grad student playing with dark ideas. But then he started leaving notes on my desk. Not messages, observations. You avoid mirrors when you're stressed. You lie better when you believe the lie yourself. You are afraid of being ordinary more than you are afraid of being wrong. No name, no explanation. I confronted him once, half laughing, half angry. Are you profiling me now? Callum met my eyes. No, he said. I'm documenting you. That was the moment I should have gone to the department head. Instead, I stayed. Because part of me liked being seen.
Things escalated after the river incident. A first-year student, Harlan Moore, was found drowned near the pedestrian bridge. Official ruling: accident. Alcohol involved. Slipped and fell. Callum didn't believe it. He didn't fall, he said quietly, while we watched the campus police lights reflect off wet pavement. He was pushed. I shrugged. You don't know that. I do, Callum said, because he told someone he was afraid. Everyone's afraid, I replied. He looked at me then. Really looked. Not everyone is ignored. That night, I dreamed of water filling my lungs, of screaming without sound. I woke up choking, my sheets twisted around my legs like restraints. After that, Callum started keeping late hours. So did I. We stopped talking about school. We talked about justice, about accountability, about what people deserved. And slowly, so slowly I didn't notice, I stopped questioning why I agreed with him. The night everything broke, the campus was nearly empty. Winter break. Snow piling against locked doors. The humanities wing echoed like a mausoleum. Callum asked me to stay late. Just one thing I want to show you, he said. I followed him to the basement archives, an area most staff avoided. Old files, forgotten storage, flickering lights that never fully warmed the air. He unlocked a door I didn't know existed. Inside was a small room, concrete walls, no windows, a single chair bolted to the floor, and a man, bound, gagged, eyes wide with terror. I froze. What the hell is this? I whispered. Callum closed the door behind us. This, he said calmly, is someone who hurt Harlan Moore. My mind scrambled, rationalized, rejected. You can't do this, I said. This isn't real. You need help. Callum tilted his head. So do you, he said. That's why you're here. I won't describe what happened next in detail. Not because I can't remember, because I remember everything. What I will tell you is this. I didn't stop him, and that was enough. Callum disappeared 3 days later. Police questioned me, briefly. No evidence, no body, no crime scene. They ruled Callum mentally unstable, possibly fled, possibly suicide. I told myself that too. I buried the guilt under publications, degrees, distance, until Route 17, until 2:11 a.m., until my phone vibrated again. Same name, same contact. This time, it wasn't a call. It was a text. You still avoid mirrors. My breath fogged the windshield. The engine stalled.
and in the reflection of the dark glass, I saw someone sitting in the back seat, smiling.
I didn't scream. That's the detail that bothers me the most. When I saw the shape in my back seat, when the outline of a man resolved in the reflection of the glass, shoulders relaxed, head tilted as if amused, I didn't scream, didn't bolt from the car, didn't even open the door. I just stared. Because fear, real fear, doesn't always come with panic. Sometimes it comes with recognition. The engine had died. The dashboard lights flickered once, then went dark. Outside, the wind dragged snow across the road in thin, whispering sheets. No other cars, no signal, no sound but my own breathing and the faint tick of cooling metal. I turned slowly. The back seat was empty. No man, no shadow, no indentation in the upholstery. I laughed then, short, broken, almost hysterical. "Get it together," I muttered. "You're exhausted, that's all." I restarted the car. The engine hesitated, then caught. Warm air began creeping from the vents. I drove. For the next 3 hours, I didn't look in the mirror. I told myself I wouldn't think about Callum. That lasted until the motel. It was one of those roadside places that hadn't been renovated since the 90s. Beige walls, patterned carpet that never quite looked clean. The kind of room where the silence presses in as soon as the door closes. I locked the door, checked it twice, then sat on the edge of the bed, phone in my hand. The text was still there. "You still avoid mirrors." No timestamp, no delivery info, no number attached, just the message. I deleted it immediately. Then I opened my contacts, scrolled. There it was again. Callum R. Dorm contacts. I felt cold spread under my skin, slow and deliberate. "No," I said out loud. "No, that's not possible." I deleted the contact, put the phone face down on the nightstand. The mirror across from the bed caught my eye. I stood up and turned it toward the wall. I didn't sleep. The next morning, I called Dr. Ellen Price. She'd been my advisor at North Cascades, one of the few faculty members who hadn't written me off as another overconfident grad student with something to prove. She answered on the third ring. "Mason," she said, surprised. "It's been years." "I know," I replied. My voice sounded wrong to my own ears, too tight, too careful. I wouldn't call if it wasn't important. "That's usually why people call," she said gently. "What's going on?" I hesitated. How do you explain something that sounds like a breakdown without making it one? "I have a question," I said. "About Callum Reeve." Silence, then quieter. "Why?" I need to know what happened, officially." Another pause, longer this time. "Mason," she said, "Callum Reeve was never officially enrolled." My grip tightened around the phone. "That's not funny." "I'm not joking," she replied. "His paperwork was flagged post-incident. Incomplete records. No verified undergraduate degree. No traceable academic history before North Cascades." "That's impossible," I said. "We shared an office. He taught discussion sections. He existed on campus," she interrupted, "but not on paper. Which is why the administration was very eager to let the situation disappear." My mouth felt dry. "What about his death?" I asked. Another silence. "He was never declared dead," she said. "He was declared unlocatable." I hung up without saying goodbye. I spent the rest of the day driving. I didn't know where I was going, just away. Away from the mountains, away from the river.
away from the idea that Callum had slipped through the cracks of reality and taken pieces of me with him. By dusk, I was in Idaho. Pine forests gave way to long stretches of open road. The sky flattened into a dull, oppressive gray. I stopped at a diner just off the highway. Fluorescent lights, vinyl booths, the smell of grease and old coffee. I ordered without tasting. Halfway through my meal, I felt it. That sensation. The one you get when someone is watching you. I looked up. A man sat alone at the counter. Early 30s, dark jacket, calm posture. He wasn't looking at me. He didn't need to. My phone buzzed. I didn't check it. I stood, left money on the table, and walked out. The man didn't follow, but when I reached my car, my phone buzzed again. This time, I looked. "You always leave before dessert." My stomach dropped. That was something Callum had once said to me years ago, after I walked out of a faculty dinner early. I got in the car and locked the doors. My reflection stared back at me from the windshield. Tired, pale, older than I remembered. For a moment, just a flicker, I thought I saw another face layered over my own, smiling.
That night I dreamed of the basement. Not the room, not the chair. The hallway. It stretched longer than it should have, lights flickering in a rhythm that felt intentional. My footsteps echoed, but they were out of sync, like someone else was walking just behind me, matching my pace imperfectly. I reached the door, opened it. The room was empty, no chair, no man. Just Callum standing in the center, hands folded behind his back. "You didn't stop me," he said. "I tried," I lied. He smiled. "You watched." I woke up screaming. I checked out of the motel before sunrise. I didn't care where I went next. I just needed distance. By noon, I reached a small town in eastern Oregon, one of those places with a single main street and too many empty storefronts. I stopped for gas and coffee, hands shaking as I fumbled with my wallet. The cashier glanced at me. "You okay?" she asked. "Yeah," I said automatically. "Just tired." She nodded toward the dark circles under my eyes. "You look like someone who hasn't slept in a while." I forced a smile. "You have no idea." As I turned to leave, she added casually, "Your friend already paid for the coffee." I froze. "What friend?" She pointed to the window. "He just stepped outside. Tall guy. Quiet." The door chimed behind me. The parking lot was empty. No cars pulling away. No footsteps fading. Just my own reflection in the glass. And for a second, just a second, another shape behind me. I didn't turn around. I realized something important that afternoon. Callum wasn't haunting me. He was continuing me. Everything he said, everything he knew, everything he remembered, it was all coming from inside my head. Or worse, from the parts of me I had tried to forget. That night, I finally checked my phone history. There were dozens of messages I didn't remember receiving, all from the same contact. All things only I should know. You liked being needed. You told yourself silence was safer. You called it neutrality. You were wrong. The last message arrived at 2:11 a.m. We need to finish what we started. I sat on the edge of the bed, shaking. "Finish what?" I whispered. The phone vibrated again. This time it wasn't a message. It was a call. I answered. For several seconds there was only breathing. Then, softly, unmistakably,
You left the door open, Mason. The line went dead, and somewhere outside my room, a door clicked shut. Smiling.
I didn't open the door. Not when I heard it close. Not when I heard the soft scrape of something moving across the carpet outside. Not when my phone vibrated again in my hand. I sat on the edge of the bed, completely still, listening. That was the worst part, realizing how much of this I had learned from Callum. He used to say panic was inefficient, that fear, if you let it, would lie to you. The truth, he believed, always arrived quietly. The motel room smelled like old detergent and something faintly metallic. My heart beat so hard I could feel it in my throat. I counted the seconds between breaths. Nothing happened. Eventually, the pressure lifted. The sense of presence receded like a tide pulling back from shore. I waited another 10 minutes before standing. The door was locked, the chain untouched. No footprints under the thin strip of light beneath it. I laughed, a sharp, hollow sound. "See?" I said to the empty room. "You're losing it." The phone buzzed. I didn't look. I threw it across the room instead. I left before dawn, again. It became a pattern: wake, flee, repeat. I stopped unpacking my bag, stopped planning routes. I drove until my eyes burned and my hands cramped around the wheel. Somewhere in Nevada, I realized I was following directions I hadn't consciously chosen. Turn here, take this exit, avoid that road. They felt familiar, comfortable, like muscle memory. That terrified me more than the messages, because it meant some part of me already knew where this was going. I reached Silver Junction just before sunset. It wasn't on my itinerary, because I didn't have one, but the name snagged in my head the moment I saw the sign. A mining town that had outlived its purpose, clinging to relevance through a combination of stubbornness and cheap rent. I parked near a shuttered grocery store and sat there longer than I should have. I'd never been here before, but my body disagreed. I knew which streets were dead ends, which buildings had basements, which places stayed open late. I checked into a short-term rental on the edge of town, a converted duplex with creaking floors and walls thin enough to hear the neighbors breathe. The owner didn't ask many questions. "Passing through?" she said. "Aren't we all?" I replied. She smiled politely, didn't laugh. That night, I unpacked, for the first time in days. I laid my laptop on the small kitchen table, opened it, and stared at the blank screen. "Okay," I said aloud. "Let's do this properly." I searched for Callum Reeve. Nothing. No records. No obituaries. No missing persons reports that matched his description. I refined the search, dug deeper. Academic databases, archived university bulletins. Still nothing. Except one thing. A scanned PDF from a regional ethics conference held nearly 15 years ago. The author line read, C. Reeve and M. Alder on complicity through inaction. My stomach dropped. I opened the file. I didn't remember writing it, but there was my name, my email address, my arguments. The paper explored a disturbing thesis, that moral responsibility doesn't require direct action, that choosing not to intervene when one has the power to do so is a form of participation. The language was precise, detached, clinical, and threaded throughout were ideas I recognized as Callum's, ideas I had argued against, ideas I had lost. My hands shook as I scrolled. The final paragraph ended with a line that made my skin crawl. Silence, when informed, is not neutrality. It is consent. The timestamp showed the file had been uploaded 2 days ago. That night, I dreamed again, but this time I wasn't watching. I was inside the memory,
the basement corridor, the flickering lights, the locked door. But when I reached the room, it wasn't Callum standing there. It was me. Older than I remembered. Colder. "You finally came back," he said. "I never left," I replied. And then I woke up. The next morning, I found the notebook. It was on the kitchen counter where I hadn't left anything. Black cover, no label. I opened it slowly. The handwriting inside was mine, not similar, mine. Dates, locations, names. Detailed observations of people I didn't remember meeting. Subject exhibits guilt-driven insomnia. Subject rationalizes inaction as pragmatism. Subject suitable for escalation. I flipped pages faster. The notes grew darker, more personal. Mason resists, but resistance is performative. He wants permission. He wants absolution without accountability. My mouth went dry. The last entry was dated today, Silver Junction. He came here because he knows this is where it ended. I slammed the notebook shut. "No," I whispered. "That's not possible." A knock sounded at the door. 3 soft taps, polite. I didn't move. The knock came again. "Mason," a voice called from the other side. My blood ran cold. It wasn't Callum's voice.
I opened the door. I don't know why. Maybe I needed to see it. Maybe I needed proof. The hallway was empty, but on the floor, just inside the threshold, lay a manila folder. I picked it up, hands numb. Inside were photographs, surveillance stills, candid shots, angles from across streets and through windows, of me, at diners, at gas stations, sleeping in my car, sitting alone in motel rooms. The most recent photo stopped me cold. It showed me standing in this very doorway holding the folder, taken from behind. Someone had been standing in the kitchen. I turned slowly. No one there. The notebook was back on the counter, open now. A new line written in fresh ink. "You're ready to remember the rest." I didn't leave Silver Junction. That was another choice I told myself wasn't one. Instead, I drove to the old industrial district on the north end of town, guided by a pull I didn't understand. Rusted warehouses, cracked pavement, silence thick enough to choke on. I parked outside a building with boarded-up windows and a faded warning sign. Condemned. My hands shook as I pushed the door open. Inside, the air was cold and damp. The smell of oil and rot clung to the walls. And then I saw it. A chair bolted to the floor. The same one. Memory slammed into me so hard I staggered. This wasn't North Cascades. This was here. This was where Callum had brought the man after we left campus. Where I had helped move him. Where I had convinced myself it was temporary, necessary. My phone buzzed. I didn't need to look. "You said it wasn't your responsibility," my voice said softly from behind me. I turned. He stood in the doorway now, calm, familiar, wearing my face like it belonged to him. "You said you were just watching," he continued. "You said stopping me would have been dangerous." I swallowed. "What do you want?" I asked. He smiled. "What we always wanted," he said. "To finish the work." I backed away, heart hammering. "This isn't real." He tilted his head. "You wrote the notes," he said. "You chose the place. You let it happen." "That wasn't me," I said desperately. He stepped closer. "Then who was it?" The question hung between us, heavy and suffocating. Because somewhere deep down,
I knew the answer. I don't remember leaving the building. I remember sitting in my car afterward, shaking so badly I couldn't turn the key. The sun was setting, bleeding red across the horizon. My phone buzzed one last time. A message. Tomorrow, you decide. I stared at it until the screen went dark. Because now I understood. Callum wasn't haunting me. He was the part of me that never stopped believing silence was enough. And tomorrow, I would have to choose whether to stay silent again.
I didn't sleep. I sat in the driver's seat all night, watching the abandoned warehouse through a windshield filmed with dust and fear. Every few minutes I checked my phone, not because I expected a message, but because silence had become more frightening than proof. The message still burned in my mind. Tomorrow, you decide. Decide what? That was the lie. I already knew. Decision implies choice. What I was facing wasn't a choice. It was a reckoning that had been waiting patiently for years. When the sun finally began to rise, it didn't bring comfort. It revealed things too clearly. The cracked pavement, the rusted metal, the faint outline of my own reflection staring back at me, hollow-eyed and unfamiliar. I stepped out of the car. The air was cold, sharp enough to hurt my lungs. Somewhere in the distance, a train horn sounded, long and lonely. Silver Junction was waking up, unaware that something old and unfinished was breathing again. I checked the building one more time. Empty. No second me, no voice, no movement. But the chair was still there, waiting. I spent the morning doing something I hadn't done in years. I told the truth. Not to the police, not to a therapist, not even to another person. I told it to myself. I sat on the floor of the rental duplex with the notebook open in front of me, turning pages slowly, letting each line land. The man in the basement hadn't died immediately. That was the part I had erased. He had cried, promised, begged. And I had stood there, hands in my pockets, telling myself I wasn't the one doing anything wrong. Callum had done the physical work. I had done the moral math. And I had found a way to make the answer come out clean. I closed the notebook and pressed my palms into my eyes until sparks danced behind them. "This ends today," I whispered. My phone buzzed. One final message. "Come back when you're ready to be honest." I returned to the warehouse just after noon. The sun sat high overhead, flooding the interior with harsh, unforgiving light. Dust motes floated in the air like suspended evidence. The chair was still bolted to the floor, but now there was a second one, identical, placed directly across from it. My chest tightened. "You're late," my voice said. He stepped out from behind a concrete pillar, my double, my shadow, my inheritance. Same face, same posture, same tired eyes. "Funny," I said hoarsely. "I was going to say the same thing." He smiled faintly. "You always liked pretending time was on your side." "What do you want?" I asked. He gestured toward the chairs. "To finish the conversation you walked away from." I didn't move. "There's no one else," I said. "No victim, no crime scene, no Callum. Just me." He shook his head slowly. "Wrong," he said. "There's always someone else. You just stopped counting them." The lights flickered overhead. I felt it then, that familiar pressure behind my eyes, that sensation of something aligning, locking into place. "You're not real," I said. "I'm the part of you that didn't forget," he replied. "That's real enough." We sat, across from each other, 2 identical men, 2 identical chairs. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then he leaned forward. "Do you remember what you said to him?" he asked. I swallowed. "No." He smiled. "You said, 'No one is coming.'" The memory slammed into me. The man on the chair, the shaking, the realization in his eyes. "You said it wasn't your responsibility," my double continued, "that the system would deal with it eventually." "That wasn't justice," I said weakly. "It was convenience," he corrected. "Justice requires witnesses." The warehouse seemed to shrink around us. "What happens now?" I asked. He studied me for a long moment. "Now," he said, "you stop pretending you were only watching." The police arrived faster than I expected. I had called them myself, told them there was a body. That part surprised even me. I led them to a spot beneath the warehouse floor where the concrete had been disturbed, poorly repaired. The officers worked in silence, faces growing more serious with every inch uncovered. When they found the remains, no one looked at me. They didn't have to. I confessed. Everything. North Cascades, Callum, the man, the silence. They asked about Callum. I told them the truth. "I don't know if he was ever fully real," I said. "But what he stood for was." They took me away in handcuffs as the sun dipped low again. I didn't resist. They evaluated me, psychologists, doctors, panels with clipboards and careful voices. They said words like dissociation, projection, delusional coping mechanism. They asked if I heard voices. I told them no. I heard memories. They never found Callum. They never come. I'm writing this from a place with white walls and no mirrors. That was part of the agreement. The guards call me cooperative, quiet, polite. Sometimes they ask if I regret it. I always give the same answer. Yes. Because regret is honest. But here's the part no one likes to hear. At night, when the lights dim and the building settles into its bones, I sometimes hear someone breathing in the room with me. Not speaking, not accusing, just present. And I know, deep in my gut, that he's still here. Not Callum, not the double, but the version of me who learned too late that silence isn't neutral. It never was. And if you're listening to this, thinking you'd do better, ask yourself one question. When the moment comes, will you speak? Or will you sit quietly and let someone else decide who you become?